Welcome back. This is Two Guys, One Sport. I'm Luke. This is John. We're here to break down Week 5 in the Big 12 and look ahead to Week 6. This is our first full week of conference games here in the Big 12, and we'll get started with Oklahoma.
Yeah, let's jump right in. The Sooners, they took down the Baylor Bears by a score of 66-33. And I thought that score wasn't as indicative of how close the game was. Baylor, they were getting some scores. They kept it close at halftime. But again, Oklahoma, they just pulled away. Kyler Murray looked really good. He didn't start the game, but he essentially started it. And so Oklahoma looked really good. Baylor, they showed some promise on offense, but they proved that they still have a long way to go.
You know, Baylor doesn't have that prolific offense they had earlier in the decade. It really shows some holes in that OU defense that I think other teams might take advantage of later in the year.
Yeah.
West Virginia, they stay undefeated. They played at Texas Tech. They won that game 42-34. Will Grier looked electric in that first half. He had total in the game 370 yards for 3 touchdowns. A big note for Texas Tech, Alan Bowman got injured and still hospitalized with a collapsed lung. Jet Duffy was able to finish that game and show some promise. He's a little inaccurate, but Texas Tech really played him close, and West Virginia didn't look like this all-powerful, undefeated team that we thought they were.
Well, I disagree with you, Luke. In the first half, they looked gangbusters, but Texas Tech, they showed a lot of fight, and they came back, played it close. Jet Duffy did well, had a couple miraculous plays, and they ended up playing it close. So I thought West Virginia looked really good, but you got to learn how to finish games, especially on the road here in the Big 12. And then we have Texas. They conquered their demons. They went into Manhattan, the Little Apple, and they beat Kansas State. Pretty ugly game. That one was a final of 19-14. But by the looks of it, Texas was in control the whole time. And again, seems kind of like a down year for the Wildcats. But, I mean, they always play tough at home. But really impressed with Texas. Go into Manhattan and kind of get that monkey off their back.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big win for that program, especially moving forward. That could have been a game that the Longhorns looked past very easily with the game they got upcoming this week.
I think that's a game in past years I think they lose.
Mm-hmm. So now we'll go to Oklahoma State playing at Kansas. They were able to get the win 48-28. Taylor Cornelius threw for 312 yards, 4 touchdowns. Justice Hill ran for 189. Hill's really been held back here early on in the season. You see 11 carries, maybe 10 carries, but they really let him loose for over 30 carries, and that worked out pretty well for the Cowboys. Carter Stanley, Kansas State had a quarterback that actually gets some passing yards in. He threw for 270 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Kansas is one of those teams, they're throwing the ball decent now. They have a running attack. I think they can knock off one of these probably top half teams in the Big 12.
I think Kansas is going to get a win in the Big 12.
They're a team that I think if somebody looks past them going into a week, they can really pull off an upset.
Yeah, I agree. And last game of the week, we had TCU at home against Iowa State. Real ugly game, low scoring. TCU got the win 17-14 on a Jonathan Song field goal with about a minute left. And that's kind of a game, I think both teams are disappointed with the outcome. Obviously, TCU, they just want to win. But I think both teams had that game circled as, hey, let's go in and get this win and let's look good doing it. And neither team looked good Saturday night.
If you're Iowa State, you have to be frustrated with this start. You're playing teams very close. You're playing solid football in the Big 12. You're playing solid defense, and they're just struggling right now.
Yeah, just a brutal schedule for the Cyclones. I felt like we were talking about that every week. They just can't seem to get rolling, and doesn't get any easier for them.
I think sooner or later they're going to bring it all together and come out with their first conference win.
Yeah, they better have to if they want to go bowling again.
Well, looking ahead to Week 6, probably the biggest game thus far here in the Big 12. It's a great matchup. OU and Texas here in the Red River rivalry.
Real tongue twister.
I mean, OU, we're going to see if that offense is going to be able to keep it going and do what they did against Baylor and get the ball moving. I think it's going to come down to what that Texas defense can do. Can they get the ball back to their offense to be able to keep up with that OU team and come out with a win?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. I think everyone's going to be tuned in. Game day's going to be there. And we'll see which team shows up. Hopefully they both show up and we get a good game. And moving on, we got West Virginia. They're going back to Morgantown and they're taking on Kansas. Kansas stays on the road, another tough road trip going from Stillwater to Morgantown. And I look for more of the same. West Virginia, they need to come out strong, not be hungover from that Tech game. I think they need to go ahead and jump on Kansas and step on their throat. They can't be getting big leads and letting teams come back, especially in this Big 12.
I think West Virginia's going to handle themselves pretty well at home. I think they're going to really learn a lot from that second half, almost slip up there in Lubbock. I think they're going to come out on fire against the Jayhawks. Next, we have Oklahoma State playing Iowa State. We'll see week 2 of letting Justice Hill loose against this Iowa State defense. This is going to be a good matchup, I think. I think Oklahoma State, they don't have that as prolific of an offense as they've had in the past. Iowa State can play solid football, and I think they can keep up, and it might not be too much of a high-scoring game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, interesting to see how that plays out. Again, Iowa State, just the gauntlet. They're just another tough game on the road, and doesn't get any easier for the Cyclones, but I think they have the team to go in there and win. And next we have Baylor at home against Kansas State. This is we've been kind of touching on this with Baylor. Another prove-it game for Baylor. I think they're actually favored in this game, and this is a chance, I think, that the Bears have to show, hey, we're not on the bottom of the Big 12 anymore. Last year was a one-time thing, and they're going to try to I guess, circle the wagons and beat Kansas State. Kansas State, they're really struggling, but you can never count out Bill Snyder and the boys.
I think that's going to be a real good game. I mean, Baylor seems like they're going to be kind of on the rise. They're playing better football than they played last year. Kansas State, they're going to stay solid. They're going to do what they do. And I think it's going to come down to the wire for that game.
Yeah, my biggest question is, how does Baylor react to being the favorite?
Well, looking back at last week in our pick'em, I was able to make a little bit of a comeback going 3-0. Jonathan struggled had 1-2 week, and we're both tied up 7-5. He actually had the first pick this week.
Yeah, and for that game, I took the Wisconsin Badgers, and they're at home against Nebraska. I think it's a 19-point favorite. And Nebraska, if you've had a chance to watch the Cornhuskers play, they had a big hire with Scott Frost, but that has not come to fruition yet. I know I got burned taking the Badgers earlier in the year, but I think that they're going to get it done by multiple touchdowns.
One of the scary things when you look at those teams like Nebraska and UCLA with the new head coaches, you got to think eventually they're going to click. Eventually going to get the offense going. Hopefully you can get the pick right, and we'll keep on moving with that. So I take NC State is favored by 5 at home against Boston College. I took Boston College earlier in the year, and they really struggled. NC State's undefeated team. They're playing at home, of course, and I really think NC State comes away that game at least 10-point win.
Yeah, Boston College, they've looked good so far this year, but NC State, they've also looked really good. Another bummer that game with West Virginia got canceled. I know we touched on that a couple times. I would have been really excited to see that game. And my second pick, I'm kind of taking a page out of Luke's book here. I'm going to go with the UCF Golden Knights. And I think they're at home against SMU. And I think Golden Knights or the Black Knights? Black Knights is Army.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so we got UCF, and they're 24-point home favorites against SMU. SMU, a team kind of like Iowa State, they just had a gauntlet of a schedule. They played Michigan, they played TCU, played a really kind of an upstart North Texas team. Those are their 3 losses, and then they beat Navy, which was a good win. But this UCF team, they just look like a juggernaut. And I think that continues, and I think that they take care of SMU at home.
I'm going to go to the SEC. I'm going to take LSU as favored by 2.5 playing at Florida, which I'm a little nervous about. Florida's really kind of got it going since their loss to Kentucky. But I believe in Ed Orgeron over there at LSU, and I think he's going to keep those boys rolling and stay undefeated.
Yeah, if they can win that game, they'll have a big top 5 matchup with Georgia next week to look forward to. And my last pick is Colorado at home against Arizona State. I know you picked Arizona State. I think they got you one right, maybe one loss. They've been kind of Jekyll and Hyde this year with Herm Edwards as the coach. But I had a chance to watch Colorado last week, and they looked really good against UCLA. So and they're only getting 3 points at home. So I roll with the Buffaloes in Boulder.
Colorado's one of the better teams that's really flown under the radar as far as they haven't played too many good opponents, but I think they're going to play real solid in that game.
Yeah, I agree.
My last pick, I'm going to take Stanford, favored by 5 at home against Utah. Utah's had their struggles here and there, so has Stanford, especially on offense. But I think playing at home in Pac-12, I really think Stanford shows how much talent they have against Utah and come away with at least 10 points.
That's the nightcap for all the ranked games. So stay up late and see if we get our picks right. Remember, you're making money if you're betting with us, so you got that.
Well, come back next week and we'll break down week 6. Look ahead to week 7. If you want to watch last week's video, see how these teams did the previous week, that'll be down in the description. Thanks for watching. This is 2 Guys, 1 Sport.
Thanks, guys.